The Mafia king forced her into a contract marriage, but when the year ended, she was the one who refused to leave. Why would a woman choose to stay with the man she once feared most? At midnight, rain hammered the windows of Roman DeLuca's mansion. Armed men surrounded the estate. Blood darkened his shirt. Elena Brooks stood near the front door with one suitcase, one loaded gun, and the freedom she had waited 12 months to claim. She could leave. She should leave. Instead, she let the suitcase fall. What happened inside that house was never just about debt power or a marriage written on paper. It was about the dangerous moment when survival begins to feel like love. Stay until the end, because this story will show how trust can grow in the darkest places. Like the video and comment where you're watching from. 12 months earlier, Elena Brooks had not loved Roman DeLuca. She did not trust him. She barely knew him. But by sunrise, she would sign a contract that made her his wife. The night before, she had spent 14 hours under the white lights of Jefferson Memorial Hospital stitching a knife wound, calming a mother whose son had stopped breathing, and holding the hand of an old man who kept asking for a wife who had been dead for 6 years. By the time Elena left the emergency department, dawn had begun to thin the darkness over Philadelphia. The city looked washed out and exhausted. So did she. Her dark hair had escaped its loose knot. A faint smear of dried blood marked the sleeve of her navy scrubs. The coffee in her paper cup had gone cold 2 hours ago, but she carried it anyway because her fingers needed something to hold. Her phone vibrated inside her coat pocket. She almost ignored it. Then she saw the name on the screen. Dad. Frank Brooks never called before noon unless he needed something. Money, a ride, an apology accepted before he had earned it. Elena stopped beneath the hospital awning as rain began to fall in a fine silver mist. She answered. What happened? For several seconds, all she heard was breathing. Then Frank said, I need you to come to the house. His voice was low, not drunk, not cheerful. That frightened her more. I just finished a shift. I know. You know because I told you yesterday, or because you have been calling the hospital again? Elena. The way he said her name made the cold settle deeper inside her. What happened? Just come alone. The line went dead. Elena stared at the screen. Every reasonable part of her said to drive home, wake Sophie for school, and let her father deal with whatever disaster he had created this time. But guilt had always known how to sound like responsibility in Frank Brooks's voice. 20 minutes later, Elena turned onto the narrow South Philadelphia street where she had grown up. Rows of brick houses stood shoulder to shoulder beneath the gray sky. Plastic chairs waited on small front steps. A delivery truck blocked half the road. Someone had left a radio playing behind an open kitchen window. Everything looked ordinary. The black armored vehicle parked outside Frank's house did not. Elena slowed. The vehicle was polished heavy and too expensive for the neighborhood. Its windows were dark enough to hide whoever sat inside. 2 men stood on the sidewalk. Neither wore a uniform. Both watched her approach. Elena parked across the street and remained behind the wheel for a moment. Her heart beat steadily, but every muscle in her body had gone alert. She thought of Sophie asleep at her friend's house after a late study night. She thought of the spare key hidden under the blue flower pot on Frank's back porch. She thought of calling the police. Then one of the men opened Frank's front door. Dr. Brooks, he said. He knew her name. Elena stepped out of the car. The rain had strengthened. It darkened her coat and gathered along her lashes. The man moved aside without touching her. Inside the house smelled of old coffee cigarette smoke and the lemon polish Frank used only when he expected company. Her father sat at the kitchen table. His shoulders were rounded. His hands shook around a chipped ceramic mug. He looked smaller than Elena remembered, though she had seen him only 3 days earlier. Across from him sat Roman DeLuca. Elena knew him before anyone introduced him. Everyone in Philadelphia knew the name. Roman DeLuca's companies built luxury towers, hospitals, highways, and half the new waterfront. His foundations donated millions to churches and schools. His private security firm protected judges, musicians, politicians, and men who never appeared in photographs. His name also lived in quieter places. Court records with missing witnesses, federal investigations that closed without charges, nightclubs where arguments ended the moment he entered. He wore a charcoal suit and a white shirt open at the collar. No tie, no visible weapon. He did not need one. Roman remained seated as Elena entered. His gaze moved over her blood-stained, sleeve-tired face and rain-damp hair. He did not look impressed or dismissive. He looked precise. "You are late," Frank said. Elena turned toward him. "I came directly from the hospital. I did not mean it like that. You usually do." Frank lowered his eyes. Roman gestured toward the empty chair beside the table. "Please sit, Dr. Brooks." Elena stayed standing. "Why are you in my father's kitchen?" Roman's expression did not change. "Sit down. I asked you a question." One of the men near the door shifted his weight. Roman raised 2 fingers without looking back. The man became still again. Roman looked at Elena. "Your father owes $380,000. The words entered the room without force, but the silence afterward felt violent. Elena looked at Frank. He stared into his cup. "What did he say?" Frank swallowed. "Elena, I can explain." "Do not explain. Tell me he is lying." Frank did not. Her body was exhausted, but anger sharpened everything. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock above the sink, the tiny cut on Frank's lower lip. How Frank rubbed both hands over his face. It started smaller. It always starts smaller. I had a system. Elena laughed once, but there was no humor in it. A system. I nearly had it back. At a casino, it was a private game. Of course it was. Roman watched them without interrupting. Frank leaned forward. "I only needed one good night. You always need one good night. Elena, listen to me. I have been listening to you my entire life." Her voice did not rise. That made Frank flinch harder. The first time Elena paid one of his debts, she was 24 and still in medical school. She sold the gold bracelet her mother had given her. Frank promised it had been a mistake. The second time Elena was pregnant with Sophie, she emptied the account she had built for maternity leave. Frank cried when he apologized. He always cried after the damage was done. Elena looked at Roman. "Who does he owe?" "He owed one of my associates. Owed I purchased the debt this morning." Frank's hand tightened around the mug. Elena heard what Roman did not say. "And if you had not purchased it?" Frank closed his eyes. Roman held Elena's gaze. The men involved would have collected according to their own methods. "What methods you already understand." Elena looked at her father again. He had called her here, knowing dangerous men had been close enough to decide whether he kept breathing. "You let this get that far," Frank's mouth trembled. "I thought I could fix it before you found out. You used my name." Elena said it quietly because something on the table had caught her attention. A folder lay beneath Roman's hand. A copy of her driver's license rested beside it. Her hospital identification. A document from the bank. Her signature stared up at her from the bottom of a page. Elena stepped closer. "What is that?" Frank did not answer. She picked up the document. It was a guarantee attached to a loan agreement. Her name appeared beneath language she had never read. She stared at the signature. It looked almost right. Frank had watched her sign birthday cards, tax forms, hospital papers, and school permission slips for 34 years. He had practiced. Elena felt something inside her go completely still. "You forged my signature." Frank stood. "I was going to remove you from it once I paid everything." She turned toward him. "You used my medical license information. I needed a guarantor. You stole documents from my home. I borrowed them." Roman's eyes moved to Frank. The room seemed to cool. Elena dropped the page onto the table. "Sit down." Frank hesitated. "Sit down." He obeyed. Elena pressed both palms against the table because the floor no longer felt stable. "If this reaches the hospital, I could be investigated, I know. If someone claims I knowingly guaranteed illegal gambling debt, I could lose everything. I know." "No, you do not know." Her voice cracked for the first time. Frank looked at her ashamed and frightened, but Elena could not tell which feeling mattered more to him. Roman opened the folder. "The guarantee will not reach the hospital." Elena faced him. "Why? Because I have not filed it. Yet. Correct." The honesty was colder than a lie. Roman removed another set of papers and placed them in front of her. The first page held a title in plain black letters. Temporary Marital Agreement. Elena read it twice. Then she looked at him. For one stunned second, she thought exhaustion had rearranged the words. "What is this, a solution? It is a marriage contract." "Yes." Frank spoke quickly. "Elena, just hear him out." She looked at her father with such disgust that he stopped. Roman folded his hands. I am in the final stage of securing a redevelopment agreement for the Delaware waterfront. The project includes housing commercial property and a private medical facility. What does that have to do with me? The investment board has concerns about my public image. Elena stared at him. You want a doctor to make you look respectable. I want a wife who cannot be mistaken for someone I hired from my own social circle. You are hiring me. I am offering you compensation for a defined role. You are using my father's debt to force me into marriage. A faint muscle moved in Roman's jaw. I am giving you an alternative. To what? Roman glanced at Frank. That small movement answered the question. Elena's stomach tightened. You call that a choice, no, Roman said. I call it the only choice in this room that ends with your father alive, your name removed from his fraud, and your daughter's life unchanged. Frank whispered, Please. Elena did not look at him. She looked at Roman. He was calm in a way only powerful men could afford to be. How long 12 months? What exactly do you expect you will live in my residence? You will attend public functions when required. We will present a stable marriage to investors, reporters, political partners, and anyone else whose approval affects the project. And privately, you will have your own rooms. No physical relationship, none is required. Elena almost smiled at the careful wording. Required. Roman's gaze remained steady. I do not force women into my bed, but marriage is acceptable. This is not a real marriage. It will be real enough to damage my life. Roman slid another page toward her. The debt total had been printed at the top. Beneath it were the financial terms. Frank's debt would be discharged upon completion of the agreement. The forged guarantee would be destroyed. A trust would be established for Sophie's education. Elena would receive a separate payment large enough to eliminate her mortgage and allow her to reduce her hospital schedule for years. Elena read the number twice. It was more money than she had ever seen attached to her name. She hated that part of her notice. She looked at Frank. What did you put up as collateral? Frank's face collapsed. The house. Her mother's house. The narrow brick row home where her mother had taught Elena to cook. Where she had studied for entrance exams at the kitchen table. Where Sophie had taken her first steps across the worn living room rug. Frank had wagered it without telling her. Elena closed the folder. No. Frank's chair scraped the floor. Elena. No. Roman leaned back slightly. You should read the entire agreement. I do not need to read it. You should never sign anything without reading it. I am not signing it. Frank came around the table. Elena, they can take the house. They should. He stopped. You do not mean that. I do. What about everything your mother left us? You already gambled it. Frank's face hardened with desperation. I raised you after she died. You were my father. That was your responsibility. I sacrificed for you, so now I owe you my life. No one said that. Elena placed one hand on the contract. This says exactly that. Roman rose. The movement was unhurried, but his full height changed the room. He stood across from Elena with the table between them. Take the documents, he said. Have an attorney review them. I said no, and I heard you. Then why are we still speaking? Because you have been awake for more than a day. You have just discovered that your father forged your signature and you are making decisions while angry. Elena stepped closer. I make decisions while people are bleeding on the floor. Do not confuse exhaustion with weakness. Roman's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. I do not. For the first time, something passed between them that was not fear, anger, or negotiation. Recognition. Roman placed a business card on top of the folder. The debt remains frozen until tomorrow morning. No one will contact your father. No one will contact you. And after tomorrow morning, that depends on your answer. Elena picked up the folder. Not because she intended to agree, because she intended to find the trap. At the front door, Frank reached for her arm. Elena, please. She pulled away before he touched her. You forged my name. I was scared. So was I every time you called me. She opened the door. Rain swept across the narrow street. Behind her, Roman spoke. Dr. Brooks. Elena looked back. He stood in Frank's kitchen, one hand resting on the chair she had refused to take. Your daughter will not be included in any public obligation unless you approve it. The fact that he had already considered Sophie made Elena's skin go cold. You know her name. I know everything connected to the debt. She is not connected to it. No, Roman said. She is connected to you. Elena left before he could see how deeply that answer unsettled her. By 10 that morning, she was sitting across from Rachel Kim, an attorney who had once represented 2 physicians during a hospital investigation. Rachel read the contract without speaking. Elena drank water and stared through the office window at traffic moving below. After 40 minutes, Rachel removed her glasses. This is legal. Elena gave a tired laugh. That does not mean it is right. No. It means the man who drafted it understands how to make coercion look voluntary. Elena looked at her. Can he use the forged guarantee against me? He can submit it. You can dispute it. There would be an investigation. You would probably clear your name eventually. Eventually. Rachel nodded. The hospital may suspend you while they review the matter. Your father could face fraud charges. The house would be vulnerable. There may also be tax and criminal issues tied to the original debt. Elena closed her eyes. What about the marriage? The agreement gives you more protection than I expected. That sounds reassuring. It is not meant to. Rachel pointed to several clauses. You keep your income. You retain separate property. There is no requirement of intimacy. There is an early termination process. He is offering independent housing within the residence. Can I protect Sophie? Yes, but not enough. Elena opened her eyes. What would you add? Rachel studied her face. You are considering this. I am considering every way to keep my daughter away from my father's disaster. They spent the next 3 hours rewriting the agreement. By early afternoon, Elena had created 10 additional conditions. Sophie would live with her full-time. Roman would have no parental authority. Elena would maintain her own vehicle bank account and career. No criminal activity could take place in the residence. Her calls and messages could not be monitored without evidence of an immediate threat. Frank would receive no additional money. Sophie could never be used as leverage. The most important clause was simple. Elena could leave at any time if she believed Sophie was unsafe. Rachel tapped the final page. If he accepts all of this, you still need to ask yourself whether you can live in his world for a year. Elena looked down at the contract. I already live in a world where men make dangerous choices and expect me to clean up the blood. At 6 that evening, Elena returned to Frank's house. Roman was alone in the kitchen. Frank had been sent upstairs. The 2 men from the morning waited outside. Roman stood when Elena entered. She placed the amended contract on the table. My attorney changed several terms. Roman opened the document. He read slowly. Elena remained standing. When he reached the clause about surveillance, his expression shifted. That could create a security problem, then solve the problem without treating me like a prisoner. He continued reading. At the restriction on criminal activity inside the residence, Roman looked up. You understand that my work creates risks. I understand your reputation creates risks. They are not always the same thing. They are to my daughter. Roman returned to the page. When he reached the final condition, the one forbidding him from using Sophie as leverage, he became very still. Elena watched his face. I want your verbal agreement as well. You have it in writing. I want to hear you say it. Roman closed the folder. I will never use your daughter to control you. If we leave you, do not follow her. If you leave because you believe she is unsafe, I will ensure no one follows either of you. You do not interfere with her school. Agreed. You do not buy her affection. Something almost human touched his expression. I would not know how. Elena believed him. That disturbed her more than arrogance would have. Roman signed each amendment. Then he turned the contract toward her. A pen rested beside the final page. Elena looked at her father's forged signature in the original debt file, then at the clean line waiting for her own. She picked up the pen, but did not write. Why me? Roman leaned one hand against the table. You have the profession the board respects. You have no public scandals. You were raised in this city. You understand responsibility. That describes thousands of women, yes. Then why me? Roman held her gaze. Because you walked into a room full of men who frightened your father, and you were the only person who did not lower your eyes. Elena signed. The sound of the pen moving across paper seemed too small for a decision that large. Roman added his signature beneath hers. Frank came downstairs when it was done. He looked relieved. That relief destroyed whatever softness Elena might have felt. Roman handed Frank a separate document. You will enter a treatment program within 48 hours. Frank blinked. That was not part of the deal. It is now. Frank looked at Elena. She did not help him. Roman continued. You will not request money from your daughter. You will not enter a casino owned by me or anyone connected to me. You will not use her name again. Frank's mouth tightened. And if I refuse, Roman's voice remained quiet. Then the agreement ends before it begins. Frank signed. The following afternoon, a black car carried Elena and Sophie out of Philadelphia. Sophie sat beside her in the back seat with a purple backpack on her lap and suspicion in her brown eyes. Elena had told her only that they would be staying with someone for a while. Sophie looked out at the passing trees. Is this because Grandpa did something? Elena turned toward her. Why would you ask that? Because you have the face you make when Grandpa does something. What face? The one where you look calm but your neck gets stiff. Elena touched the side of her neck. Sophie watched her. Did he lose money again? Yes. Did you fix it? Elena looked at the large iron gates ahead. No, she said. Not exactly. The gates opened. Beyond them stood a stone mansion surrounded by winter trees and quiet lawns. Sophie pressed closer to the window. Who lives there? My husband. Sophie turned so quickly that the backpack fell onto the floor. Your what? The car stopped beneath a covered entrance. Roman stood at the top of the steps in a dark overcoat. He looked exactly as he had in Frank's kitchen. Controlled, watchful, impossible to read. Sophie stared at him through the glass. Elena reached for the door handle. He is Roman DeLuca. Sophie whispered, Is he the criminal? The driver looked straight ahead. Elena opened the door. Cold air entered the car. Roman descended the steps as Sophie climbed out. He stopped several feet away, giving the child space. Sophie studied him with open curiosity. Are you really a criminal? Elena closed her eyes for one brief second. Roman looked at Sophie. According to 3 newspapers, 2 federal agencies, and most of City Hall, Sophie considered this. Did you do it? Roman glanced at Elena. Then he looked back at Sophie. Some of it. For the first time since Elena had signed the contract, Sophie smiled. Roman turned toward the open doors of the house. Warm light spilled across the stone entrance. Elena took her daughter's hand and followed him inside. Warm light spilled across the stone entrance. Elena took her daughter's hand and followed Roman inside. The first thing she noticed was the silence. Not the empty silence of an abandoned house. This silence felt trained, controlled, the kind that belonged to people who knew when to speak and when not to be heard. The entrance hall rose 2 stories above them. Dark wood framed the walls. A wide staircase curved toward the upper floor. A chandelier cast soft gold across the marble, but nothing in the room felt designed to impress strangers. There were no giant portraits of Roman, no glass cases filled with awards, no display of weapons. Instead, Elena saw a worn leather chair near the fireplace, a stack of newspapers folded beside it, and several framed photographs placed face down on a narrow table. A woman in her late 50s approached from the hallway. She wore a gray dress beneath a white apron, though the confidence in her posture made the uniform seem almost ceremonial. You must be Dr. Brooks, her voice was warm. Elena is fine. The woman smiled. I am Teresa Alvarez. I have managed this house since Roman was too young to understand why anyone needed managing. Roman removed his coat. I understood perfectly. You believed breakfast was a personal insult. I was 8. You still believe it. Sophie looked between them. You talk to him like that. Teresa glanced at Roman. Someone must. A sound escaped Elena before she could stop it. It was not quite a laugh, but Roman noticed. His eyes moved to her face. Teresa crouched in front of Sophie. And you must be Sophie. Sophie tightened her hold on Elena's hand. How do you know Roman told me? Sophie looked up at him. You told her about me. I told her 2 guests were arriving. That is not the same thing. Roman seemed to consider this. No, it is not. Teresa smiled and held out one hand. I made hot chocolate. There are marshmallows unless your mother says no. Sophie looked at Elena. Elena nodded. 1 cup. Sophie took Teresa's hand. As they walked toward the kitchen, Sophie turned back. Can it have 6 marshmallows? 4, Elena said. 5, 4. Teresa lowered her voice loudly enough for everyone to hear. We will begin with 4 and discuss the matter privately. Sophie followed her down the hall. Elena waited until they disappeared. Then she looked at Roman. You did not mention a housekeeper. Teresa is not a housekeeper. What is she? Roman glanced toward the kitchen. The only person in this house who ignores my instructions without consequences. That sounds healthy. It is inconvenient. Elena folded her arms. Where are our rooms? Roman led her upstairs. The second floor was quieter than the entrance hall. Thick carpet softened their steps. Tall windows overlooked the wet grounds and a line of winter trees beyond the estate wall. Roman stopped at a set of double doors. This wing is yours. He opened them. Elena stepped into a private sitting room with pale walls, bookshelves, and a fireplace. 2 bedrooms opened from opposite sides. There was a small study, a bathroom, and a narrow staircase leading to a lower garden. Fresh flowers stood on the table. Sophie's room had been prepared with the desk shelves and a window seat. Nothing was pink. Nothing looked like a rich man's idea of what an 8-year-old girl should want. A telescope stood near the window. Elena noticed it immediately. She likes astronomy, Roman said. You investigated her too. I reviewed relevant information. She is a child. She is living in my home. Elena turned toward him. That does not make her part of your file. Roman met her gaze without retreating. It makes her someone whose safety is now connected to mine. The answer was practical, but the way he said safety caught her attention. Not image, not obligation. Safety. Elena walked to the telescope. It was not decorative. The model was expensive and carefully assembled. You bought this. Yes, I told you not to buy her affection. I did not give it to her. Elena looked at him. Roman continued. If you object, it can be removed before she sees it. For a moment, Elena had no answer. She had expected control. She had expected arrogance. She had prepared herself for a man who would hear every boundary as a challenge. Roman seemed to hear them as instructions. That will not be necessary, she said. He gave a single nod. The security system is active at all times. You may leave whenever you want, but notify the gate before driving out. That sounds like permission. It is information. Your men searched my car. They searched every vehicle entering the property. They opened Sophie's backpack. Roman's expression changed slightly. I did not authorize that. It happened. I will address it. Elena watched him. No excuses. No. She had known men who could turn any failure into someone else's fault. Her father had made an art of it. Daniel had done it with softer language and better clothes. Roman accepted the accusation as if it were evidence. That made him harder to understand. He walked toward the door. Dinner is at 7. We may not join you. You are not required to. Elena looked around the room. You really expect us to live in one wing of the house and appear beside you when needed? That is what we agreed. And the rest of the time, Roman's hand rested on the door frame. The rest of the time, Dr. Brooks, you live your life. He left. Elena stood alone in the quiet room. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt the uneasy sensation of having prepared for a battle that had not yet begun. At 7:15, Elena entered the dining room with Sophie. Roman was already seated. The table was long enough for 20 people, but Teresa had set only 3 places at one end. Sophie stopped beside her chair. Are we late? Roman looked at the clock. Yes. Elena pulled out Sophie's chair. She needed help unpacking. You could have informed Teresa. Elena sat down across from him. You said dinner was not required. It is not. Then we cannot be late. Roman looked at her for a long second. Sophie lowered her head, hiding a smile. Teresa entered carrying soup. What did I miss? Nothing. Roman said. Elena reached for her napkin. We were discussing the difference between a request and an order. Teresa set the soup down. A subject Roman has struggled with since childhood. Roman exhaled through his nose. Dinner began in silence. Sophie lasted less than a minute. How many people live here? Roman cut a piece of bread. 4 now. Only 4, yes. But there are 20 chairs. Sometimes people visit. Criminals. Elena closed her eyes. Roman lifted his water glass. Sometimes. Do they know they are criminals? Sophie Elena said. It is okay, Roman replied. Sophie leaned forward. Do you have secret rooms nor hidden tunnels? Roman paused. Elena noticed. Sophie noticed too. You do? There is an old service passage beneath the east side of the house. Sophie's eyes widened. Can I see it? No. Why? Because parts of it are unstable. That sounds like something people say when there is treasure. There is no treasure. What is in it, Dust? Sophie looked disappointed. Roman added, and rats. She sat back immediately. Elena studied him over the rim of her glass. He had answered every question without mocking her daughter or pretending she was not there. After dinner, Sophie discovered the telescope. Her scream carried down the hall. Elena found her kneeling beside the case, running her fingers over the polished metal. Mom, look. I see it. Is it ours? It belongs to the house. Roman appeared in the doorway. Sophie turned toward him. Can I use it if your mother agrees? Sophie looked at Elena. Elena nodded. Roman stepped inside and adjusted the tripod. He moved carefully, explaining how to focus the lens and why city light made certain stars difficult to see. Sophie listened with unusual concentration. You know about stars? She asked. A little. What is your favorite planet? Roman looked through the window. I do not have one. You have to. I was not aware. Sophie thought for a moment. Saturn. Why Saturn? It has rings, but they are made of broken pieces. Roman became still. Sophie continued adjusting the lens, unaware of the effect of her words. Elena saw it. Something passed behind Roman's eyes and disappeared before she could name it. Later, after Sophie fell asleep, Elena found Roman in the sitting room outside their bedrooms. He stood near the window with one hand in his pocket. You did not have to stay until she finished. I know. She talks when she is nervous. She talks when she is comfortable, too. Elena leaned against the doorway. You noticed. Roman looked toward Sophie's closed door. I notice most things. That is not always reassuring. No. The answer was so simple that Elena almost smiled. Roman turned to leave. Your first public appearance is Friday. Elena straightened. That's soon the redevelopment gala at the museum. Yes, I have a shift. It begins after your shift. You know my schedule. My assistant coordinated with the hospital. Elena's expression hardened. You did not have permission to contact my employer. He spoke to scheduling, not administration. That is still my workplace. Roman's face remained calm. The gala cannot be moved. My life does not move because you snap your fingers. I did not snap my fingers. You rearranged my shift. I arranged coverage. Elena stepped toward him. You do not make decisions for me. Roman held her gaze. You agreed to public obligations. I agreed to attend them. I did not agree to let you interfere with my job. For several seconds, neither moved. Then Roman took out his phone. He called someone. Elena Brooks's schedule returns to its original form, he said. Find another solution. He ended the call. Elena blinked. That is it, you objected. Yes, so I corrected it. You make that sound easy. For me, it usually is. He walked away before she could answer. Friday arrived beneath a cold blue sky. Elena spent 10 hours in the emergency department and drove directly to the mansion. She expected someone to be waiting with dresses, jewelry, and instructions. Instead, Teresa met her upstairs with tea. Roman sent 3 designers away. Why, you told him you would choose your own clothes. Elena looked toward the garment bag hanging from the wardrobe. I did. He listened. That seems to surprise everyone. It surprises Roman most of all. Elena had bought the dress herself 2 days earlier. Dark blue, simple lines, no glitter, no lace, no attempt to look younger or softer than she was. When she descended the staircase, Roman stood in the entrance hall speaking to a man from his security team. He looked up. The conversation stopped. Elena continued down the stairs. Roman's gaze moved over her once, then returned to her face. You were about to say something, she said. He dismissed the guard with a slight motion. You look convincing. Elena reached the final step. That sounded almost like a compliment. It was one. She adjusted the bracelet at her wrist. How do we know each other? Roman offered his arm. Hospital charity dinner, 6 months ago. Elena did not take it yet. I hate charity dinners. I know. Then why would I stay long enough to meet you? A voice came from the sitting room. He spilled coffee on you. Sophie appeared in pajamas holding a book. Elena looked at her. "You should be in bed. I came to check the story." Roman turned slightly. "What story?" "The story about how you met." Sophie walked closer. "Mom hates charity dinners. She would try to leave early. You would have to spill coffee on her, so she stayed." Roman considered this. Why would spilling coffee make her stay? Because she would be angry. Elena folded her arms. "That is disturbingly accurate." Sophie pointed at Roman. "Then you apologized badly." "I apologize adequately." "No, you do not." Roman looked at Elena. "Is that true? I have not heard you apologize," Sophie continued. "Then he bought you another coffee, but you did not like it because he got the order wrong." Roman's mouth shifted almost imperceptibly. "What does your mother drink?" Sophie answered immediately. "Black coffee with 1 sugar after 6 in the morning. 2 sugars before 6, because she says life should not hurt that early." Elena looked at her daughter. "You remember too much." Sophie smiled. Roman offered Elena his arm again. This time she took it. The Philadelphia Museum of Art glowed against the night. Black cars lined the entrance. Cameras flashed beneath the stone columns. Men in tuxedos and women in evening gowns moved through the grand doors under the watch of private security. The moment Elena stepped out of the car, Roman placed one hand at the small of her back. The touch was light. Still, she felt it through the dress. "Smile," he murmured. "I am smiling. You look like you are preparing to identify a body. That is my professional expression." A reporter called Roman's name. He turned with Elena beside him. Questions came quickly. When had they met? Why had the wedding been private? How had Roman DeLuca convinced a respected physician to marry him? Elena felt every camera waiting for weakness. Roman answered the first 2 questions. Then a woman in a red coat asked Dr. Brooks, "Was it love at first sight?" Elena glanced at Roman. His face gave her nothing. She smiled. "No, he spilled coffee on me." Roman's eyes narrowed slightly. The reporter laughed. "Really? He apologized badly." "I apologized adequately," Roman said. The cameras caught Elena looking at him. For the first time, the performance felt natural. Inside the museum had been transformed by candlelight and music. Roman introduced Elena to donors, city officials, developers, and board members. She remembered names, asked questions, and refused to become decoration beside him. An older investor spoke to her about the medical facility included in the waterfront project. Elena asked about emergency access, public transportation, and whether the clinic would serve uninsured patients. The man hesitated. Roman watched from beside her. Later, near the staircase, he said, "You challenged one of the board's largest donors." He had no answer. "That was not your role tonight." Elena took a glass of sparkling water from a tray. "You wanted a doctor. Doctors ask what happens when plans meet real people." Roman studied her. Then he nodded toward the ballroom. "He wants another meeting with the medical committee." Elena looked at him. "You are not angry. I did not say that. Are you?" "No." Before she could respond, a broad-shouldered man with silver hair approached. Charles Whitmore. Elena recognized him from business pages and court reports. He greeted Roman without warmth. Then he looked at Elena. "So this is the doctor. This is my wife," Roman said. Charles smiled as if Roman had confirmed a rumor. "Quite a departure from your usual company." Elena heard the insult beneath the polished words. She returned his smile. "Roman did not marry beneath himself, Mr. Whitmore. He married outside your imagination." Charles's expression tightened. Roman lifted his glass, hiding what might have been amusement. Later, Charles found Elena alone near a marble column. He stepped too close. "Do you know what people say about him?" "Yes, and you married him anyway. That appears to be the evening's central mystery." Charles placed one hand on her elbow. His grip was not painful, but it was familiar in the way powerful men tested how much space a woman would surrender. Elena pulled back. Charles did not release her. Roman appeared beside them. He did not raise his voice. "Take your hand off my wife." Charles let go immediately. For a second, the ballroom seemed quieter around them. Charles straightened his jacket. "We were talking. Now you are finished." Charles looked at Elena, then at Roman. He walked away. Elena turned toward Roman. "You enjoyed that. He touched you after you moved away." "That does not answer me." Roman looked across the ballroom toward Charles. "No," he said. "It does not." On the drive home, rain streaked the windows. Elena removed her shoes and rested them near her feet. Roman sat across from her in the dark interior of the car. "You frightened him. He should not be easily frightened." "That is not what I said." Roman looked at her. Elena continued. "You knew he would back down." "Yes, because of your reputation." "Yes, and if he had not the passing lights moved across Roman's face, you would not want the answer. That is the problem." Roman said nothing. Elena looked out the window. She had seen men become violent in the emergency department. She had watched fear turn into rage and rage into blood. Roman was different. He did not lose control. He used it. When they arrived at the mansion, Sophie had fallen asleep on the sitting room sofa with a book open on her chest. Teresa stood nearby. She insisted on waiting. Elena bent to lift her. Roman reached Sophie first. He stopped with one hand beneath her shoulders, waiting. Elena understood the question. She nodded. Roman lifted Sophie carefully. Sophie stirred and pressed her face against his jacket. "Did Mom scare the rich people?" she mumbled. Roman looked at Elena. "Yes." Sophie smiled without opening her eyes. "Good." Roman carried her upstairs. Elena followed a few steps behind. At Sophie's room, he placed her gently beneath the covers. He moved with the caution of a man handling something breakable. For one brief moment, Sophie's hand closed around his finger. Roman froze. Elena saw the shock in his face. Then Sophie released him and turned toward the pillow. Roman stepped back. He left the room without speaking. Elena found him downstairs in the dark kitchen. He stood at the counter with both hands braced against the stone. "Roman, I have an early meeting. That is not why you left." He straightened. "You should sleep." Elena moved closer. "She trusts you. She does not know me. She knows how you treat her." Roman's eyes remained on the counter. "That is not the same thing." "No," Elena said softly. "Sometimes it is more important." Roman looked at her then. The distance between them felt smaller than it had at the gala. More dangerous, too. His phone rang. The moment broke. Roman answered. His expression changed as he listened. "Where is he?" Elena watched the warmth disappear from his face. Roman turned away. "No police. Keep him breathing until I arrive." He ended the call and reached for his coat. "What happened, my brother? Is he hurt?" Roman opened the door. "He may be dying." Elena was already moving toward the hall. "Then you are not going without a doctor." Roman stopped with one hand on the door. For 1 second, the only sound in the kitchen was the rain striking the windows. "No." Elena crossed the room and reached for her coat. That was not a request. "My brother is in Atlantic City. I heard you. The people around him may not be safe. That is exactly why you need someone who knows whether he is dying." Roman's jaw tightened. "You have a daughter sleeping upstairs, and she is safe here with Teresa. You do not know what you are walking into." Elena pulled on her coat. "I walk into rooms where people are bleeding every day. This is different. Blood is not different because it belongs to your family." Roman stared at her. The words landed somewhere deeper than Elena intended. He opened the door. "Stay beside me. I will stay beside the patient." A black vehicle waited beneath the covered entrance. Rain ran across its roof in silver sheets. 2 men stood near the rear doors, both alert, both armed beneath their coats. Roman spoke to one of them. "Tell Teresa where we are going. Do not wake Sophie." The man nodded. Elena climbed into the back seat. Roman entered beside her. The vehicle moved before the door had fully settled into place. Philadelphia disappeared behind them in wet streets and blurred lights. Roman made 3 calls during the first 10 minutes. His voice remained level, but Elena saw the tension in his hands. His right thumb pressed repeatedly against the side of his index finger. A small movement. Almost nothing. She had seen the same movement in relatives waiting outside trauma rooms. "Tell me what happened," she said. Roman looked at the dark road ahead. "Luca was found unconscious in a hotel suite." "Who found him?" "One of the hotel managers." "Was he breathing barely? Did they call an ambulance?" Now Elena turned toward him. "Why not?" "Because the room was filled with cocaine pills and 2 men carrying unregistered weapons. I do not care what was in the room. If he stops breathing, none of it matters. They have oxygen. Oxygen does not reverse an overdose." Roman said nothing. Elena leaned forward. Call them again. They were told to keep him breathing. That is not enough. Roman looked at her. Tell them to search for naloxone. Most hotels keep emergency kits now. If they do not have it, send someone to a pharmacy. Tell them not to let him lie flat. If he vomits, turn him on his side. Do not give him coffee. Do not put him in a cold shower. Do not force him to walk. Roman made the call. He repeated every instruction exactly. When he finished, he placed the phone beside him. How long has he been using Roman's face closed? I do not know. You know. Years. Whatever makes him forget he is disappointing everyone. The answer came too quickly to be casual. Elena watched him. Has he overdosed before? Yes. How many times Roman looked out the window? 3. And you covered it up? I kept him alive. That was not my question. His eyes returned to hers. I kept his name out of the papers. I paid the doctors. I arranged treatment. He left after 6 days. So you brought him home, yes. You gave him money, yes. You removed every consequence. Roman's voice hardened. You do not know my brother. I know the pattern. This is not your father. No, it is your brother. That makes it easier for you to pretend the pattern is different. The silence between them sharpened. The driver kept his eyes on the road. Roman lowered his voice. You came to help him. Help him. I am. Then save the analysis for later. Elena turned toward the window. The highway stretched ahead beneath a black sky. She let the subject go. Not because Roman had won, because Luca might not have enough time for either of them to be right. They reached Atlantic City shortly after 3 in the morning. The hotel rose above the wet boardwalk, its glass facade glowing against the darkness. Roman's men guided them through a service entrance and into a private elevator. No one asked questions. No one looked directly at Roman. The elevator doors opened onto a carpeted hallway where 2 men stood outside a suite. One had blood on his shirt. The other held a small plastic device in one hand. Naloxone, he said. We gave him 1 dose. Elena moved past him. The suite smelled of alcohol sweat and expensive cologne. A broken lamp lay on the floor. White powder covered the glass table. Bottles, cards, and half-counted stacks of cash had been abandoned across the room. Roman DeLuca lay near the sofa. He was younger than Roman, but the resemblance was immediate. The same dark hair, the same strong jaw, none of Roman's control. His skin had gone pale beneath the bruising around his mouth. Elena dropped to her knees. Luca, can you hear me? No response. She checked his pulse. Slow. Too slow. His breathing came in shallow, uneven sounds. How long was he down? The hotel manager stood near the wall. I do not know, maybe 20 minutes. Maybe is not a measurement. I found him like this. Elena looked at the naloxone device. When did you give it 6 minutes ago? She opened Luca's airway and checked his pupils. Bring me the 2nd dose. One of the men handed it to her. Roman moved closer. Elena did not look up. Stay back. He is my brother and I need room. Roman stopped. Elena administered the 2nd dose. Call an ambulance now. The manager looked at Roman. Elena snapped, do not look at him. Call. Roman gave a single nod. The manager reached for his phone. Elena began assisted breathing. Seconds passed, then more. Luca's chest rose beneath her hand, but he did not wake. Roman stood near the sofa, completely still. For the first time since Elena had met him, he looked powerless, not uncertain, not angry. Powerless. Luca suddenly coughed. His body jerked hard against the floor. Elena rolled him onto his side as he vomited. He gasped, then tried to pull away from her. Easy, she said. Do not move. Luca's eyes opened without focus. Roman, I am here, Roman said. Luca tried to laugh. It turned into another cough. Of course you are. The bitterness in his voice was weak but unmistakable. Sirens approached from the street below. Roman knelt on the other side of his brother. What did you take? Luca closed his eyes. Everything. Roman reached for him. Elena caught Roman's wrist. Do not shake him. Roman looked at her hand on his arm. She released him. The paramedics arrived moments later. Elena gave them the information quickly. 2 doses of naloxone, respiratory depression, possible mixed substances, unknown downtime. They placed Luca on a stretcher. As they wheeled him toward the elevator, he turned his head toward Roman. Do not call it an accident. Roman followed him out. At the hospital, Elena was not permitted to treat Luca officially, but she remained close enough to answer questions. Roman sat in the private waiting area, with his forearms resting on his knees. His white shirt cuff was stained with Luca's blood and vomit. No one approached him. Men stood at both entrances. The nurses moved quietly. Elena returned carrying 2 paper cups of coffee. She placed one in front of him. Roman looked at it. "1 sugar," she said. "It is after 6. He glanced at the clock. It was 6:12. He took the cup. "Thank you." Elena sat beside him. For several minutes they watched the untouched television mounted on the wall. Roman spoke first. "When he was 17, he stole one of my cars." Elena waited. "He drove it to New York with 2 girls and came back 3 days later with no money, no phone, and a broken hand. What did you do?" "I paid the hotel. Replaced the car. Made the arrest disappear." Elena held her coffee between both hands. "He learned you would erase the damage. He was 17. And after that, Roman looked toward the closed hospital doors. After that, there was always something. Gambling, yes. Drugs, yes. People he owed." Roman's expression did not change. "Yes." Elena looked at him. "You cannot keep saving him." Roman's eyes shifted to hers. "You saved your father. That is how I know." His face hardened, but he did not turn away. Elena continued. "Every time you remove the consequences, you teach him that pain belongs to everyone except him. He is my brother. So you keep him alive long enough to destroy himself again." Roman stood, the coffee cup bent slightly in his hand. "You believe this is simple. No. You believe I should let him fall. I believe you should stop building a floor beneath him every time he jumps." Roman looked down at her. Something dangerous moved behind his eyes. Elena did not lower hers. Then a doctor entered the waiting area. Mr. DeLuca. Roman turned immediately. The doctor explained that Luca was stable. He had aspirated but responded to treatment. They would monitor him overnight. There was no immediate evidence of permanent neurological damage. Roman's shoulders lowered by less than an inch. It was enough for Elena to see how tightly he had been holding himself together. The doctor asked if they knew what Luca had taken. Roman said no. Elena said he told us everything. The doctor nodded grimly and left. Roman remained standing. Elena rose beside him. "You should rest. So should you. I have been awake longer. That is not a competition. It usually is in the emergency department." Roman looked at her tired face. "You saved his life. The naloxone saved his life. You knew what to do. That is my job." "No," Roman said quietly. "Your job was in Philadelphia." Elena looked at him. The hardness had left his voice. He seemed almost unsure what to do with gratitude. "Take him to treatment when he wakes up," she said. "I have before. Then do it differently. How do not make it comfortable?" Roman's mouth tightened. "You sound cruel. I sound like someone who knows what it costs to love a person who never has to face himself." They returned to Philadelphia after sunrise. Sophie was eating pancakes in the kitchen when Elena entered. She looked up. "Where were you?" Elena removed her coat. "Roman's brother was sick. Is he okay? He is alive." Sophie looked at Roman. "Were you scared?" Roman stopped near the doorway. Teresa became very still at the stove. Sophie waited. Roman could have dismissed the question. He could have said no. Instead, he pulled out a chair. "Yes." Sophie poured syrup over her pancakes. "Mom gets scared too." Roman looked at Elena. "She does not appear to. That is because she makes her neck stiff." Elena closed her eyes. Teresa turned away to hide a smile. Roman sat across from Sophie. "I will remember that." The house settled into a new rhythm after Atlantic City. Roman was away more often. Luca had been transferred to a private treatment center in Pennsylvania. Roman visited twice during the first week, but he did not bring money, lawyers, or promises. Elena knew because Roman told her. He did not ask for praise. He simply said he wanted to leave. "I refused to arrange transportation." That must have been difficult. For him, for you. Roman looked down at the documents on his desk. Yes. Elena began noticing other changes too. Roman stopped sending his assistant to negotiate every detail of her schedule. He asked. He no longer positioned security men directly outside Sophie's school entrance. He moved them across the street after Elena said the attention made Sophie uncomfortable. When Elena arrived home after a long shift, coffee waited in the kitchen. Black, 1 sugar. If it was before dawn, 2. She did not ask who made it. Roman did not mention it. On a Sunday afternoon, Sophie spread cardboard, paint wire, and foam balls across the library floor. Her science class had assigned a model of the solar system. Elena had promised to help, but a patient emergency kept her at the hospital. When she returned home, the library looked like a small explosion. Roman sat on the floor in shirt sleeves holding a painted sphere while Sophie examined it with severe disappointment. "Jupiter is too small," Sophie said. Roman looked at the reference book. "It is proportional." "No, it is not. The measurement says it is. The measurement is wrong." Roman looked up as Elena entered. "Your daughter rejects mathematics when it becomes inconvenient." "She gets that from my father." Sophie shook her head. "Grandpa rejects mathematics because he thinks money grows back." Roman's eyes met Elena's. Neither laughed. Sophie held up the sphere. "Tell him Jupiter is too small." Elena placed her bag down. "Jupiter is too small." Roman stared at both of them. "You did not even inspect it. I trust her professional judgment." Sophie smiled triumphantly. Roman muttered something in Italian. Elena raised an eyebrow. What was that, a private observation? It sounded unfriendly. It was accurate. They finished the model after midnight. Sophie fell asleep on the carpet beside Saturn. Elena sat on the floor with her back against the sofa. Roman remained beside the model, carefully repairing one of the rings. "You are good with her," Elena said. Roman did not look up. "She tells me when I am not. That is one of her talents. She asks questions no adult would ask. Adults learn to be afraid of answers." Roman adjusted the wire. "She is not afraid of me. No, she should be." Elena watched him. "Do you want her to be?" Roman stopped moving. The library became quiet. "No." The word came out almost too softly to hear. Elena looked at Sophie asleep beneath the warm lamplight. "Then give her a reason not to be." Roman placed Saturn beside the model. "What reason keeps showing up?" His eyes moved to Elena. The air shifted. She felt it before either of them moved. A pull that had been growing in crowded rooms, silent hallways, and late-night conversations. Roman reached toward her face, then stopped. His fingers remained inches from her cheek. Elena did not move away. What, she whispered, "There is paint," where he touched the edge of her jaw. His thumb moved lightly across her skin. The contact lasted only a second. It felt longer. Roman lowered his hand. Gone. Elena's pulse had changed. Roman noticed. His gaze dropped to her mouth. Then Sophie shifted in her sleep. The moment disappeared. Roman stood and lifted Sophie carefully. This time he did not look at Elena for permission. He already knew she trusted him. Weeks passed. The staged marriage became easier in public and harder in private. At events, Elena knew when Roman wanted her close. He never had to ask. Roman learned when she needed air and guided conversations toward quieter rooms. Reporters began describing them as private but devoted. The board approved the next phase of the waterfront project. Elena joined a medical advisory committee and demanded space for an emergency clinic serving uninsured patients. Roman did not interfere. When one investor objected to the cost, Roman said, "Then find the money somewhere else." Elena heard about it from the committee chair. That night, she found Roman alone in his office. "You supported the clinic. I supported the project. Those are not the same thing. They are now." She leaned against the doorframe. "You could have told me. You would have thanked me. Would that be unbearable?" Roman looked up from his desk. "I would not know what to do with it." Elena stepped into the room. "You say thank you, then continue breathing. That sounds inefficient." She smiled. Roman watched her smile. The room became quieter. Elena saw a framed drawing behind his desk. Sophie had drawn the mansion beneath a dark blue sky. 3 figures stood near the front steps. One wore a white coat. One had long brown hair. The third was taller than the house. Elena pointed to it. "You framed that." Roman followed her gaze. "It was on my desk, in a frame. It kept falling over. You could have placed it in a drawer." Roman's face closed slightly. "I did not want to." Elena studied him. Why, Roman looked at the drawing for a long time. Then he said, "Because the house looked different in it. How occupied? The words settled between them. Before Elena could answer, Roman's phone rang. He looked at the screen and declined the call. "You never decline calls," she said. "I do now." He stood and walked toward the bar. Elena noticed the date on the calendar near his desk. August 17th. Teresa had been quieter all day. Roman had barely touched dinner. Elena remembered the photograph turned face down in the entrance hall. The woman, the young boy. What happened today? Roman poured water into a glass. Nothing. That is not true. He kept his back to her. Elena waited. Roman stared at the glass in his hand. "My wife and son died 8 years ago today." The sentence was flat, too flat. Elena did not move. Roman continued before she could speak. Claire was 33. Nicholas was 6. The names changed the room. They made the photograph real. Elena approached slowly. "I am sorry." Roman gave a small, humorless breath. "Everyone says that because there is nothing useful to say." "No." He looked down at the water. "There usually is not." Elena stood beside him. "What happened?" "A drunk driver crossed the median during a storm." Roman's voice remained controlled, but his fingers had tightened around the glass. "They were coming home from Nicholas's school performance. Were you there, no?" The answer broke something open. Roman placed the glass down too carefully. "I promised him I would be." Elena said nothing. "I had a meeting. A deal I believed could not wait." His mouth twisted with contempt. It waited. Elena looked at him. "Roman, I arrived at the hospital 14 minutes after Claire died." His voice dropped. Nicholas was already gone. Elena felt the pain beneath every measured word. Not fresh pain, pain preserved, built into the walls of his life. "You did not cause the accident. I was not there. That is not the same thing. It was to him. You do not know that. I know I made a promise." Elena reached for his hand. Roman looked down at their fingers. He did not pull away. "You think everything is a debt," she said. "Everything is. Not grief." His eyes lifted to hers. "You cannot repay the dead by punishing yourself. You do not know what I owe them." "No," Elena said softly. "But love is not a debt." Roman looked at her as if the sentence were written in a language he had forgotten. Outside, thunder rolled across the estate. The lights flickered once, then went out. Darkness filled the office. A second later, emergency lamps glowed along the hallway. Roman's hand closed around hers. The reaction was immediate, instinctive. Elena felt his pulse against her fingers. "Fast," he released her. "The generator will start." Rain struck the windows harder. Elena remembered what he had said. A storm, the car, the hospital. She stepped closer. "You hate storms." Roman looked toward the black glass. "I hate what people remember during them." Thunder shook the windows. For the first time, Elena saw fear in his face without disguise. Not fear of enemies, not fear of death, fear of being returned to a moment he could not control. She touched his arm. "You are here." Roman's eyes moved to hers. "So are you," he said. The generator started. Warm light returned. Neither of them moved. Elena could hear the rain, his breathing, her own heart. Roman lifted one hand and touched her face. This time there was no paint to remove. His fingers rested against her cheek. Elena leaned into the touch before she could stop herself. Roman moved closer. The distance between them disappeared slowly, carefully. Their mouths nearly met. Roman closed his eyes. Then he stepped back. The loss of warmth felt immediate. This was not part of the agreement, he said. Elena looked at him. "No." Roman's hand dropped to his side. "It cannot happen because of the contract." "I know. You entered this house because you were cornered." "I know that too." His voice became rougher. "I will not become another man who takes something because you had no room to refuse." Elena held his gaze. "Then understand the difference between a woman who cannot refuse and a woman who has not yet decided." Roman said nothing. Elena left the office before her courage could become a confession. The following morning she woke to the sound of voices downstairs. Frank stood in the entrance hall. He wore the same brown coat he had worn the day Elena signed the contract. His hair was uncombed. His face was flushed with anger. Roman stood near the front door. Teresa had placed herself between Frank and the staircase. Elena descended slowly. "What are you doing here?" Frank looked up. "Finally. You were told not to come. I called. I did not answer. That is why I came." Elena reached the bottom step. Frank held out a folder. I found an opportunity. Her stomach tightened. "No, you have not heard it. I do not need to. It is an investment. No, it is legitimate. No." Frank's face hardened. "You do not even know what it is. I know what you call every gamble before you lose." Roman watched from several feet away. He did not interfere. Frank lowered his voice. "I only need 20,000. Elena laughed once. "Only? You have money now." The sentence struck harder than shouting would have. Elena looked at him. "What did you say? You live here. You wear dresses that cost more than my car. You stand beside him in newspapers. Do not pretend you cannot help. I bought those dresses, with what he pays you." The shame Frank wanted her to feel rose quickly, then stopped. Elena looked at her father and saw the pattern clearly. The emergency, the guilt, the rescue, the promise, the next emergency. "No." Frank stepped closer. "Elena, I am your father. Yes, you would let me lose everything you already did. I made mistakes. You built a life out of them and called me whenever the walls collapsed." His face reddened. "I raised you after your mother died. You keep saying that as if loving your child was a loan." Roman's gaze sharpened. Frank looked at him. "You understand family. Tell her." Roman remained still. Frank continued. "She would not be standing in this house if I had not raised her." Roman's voice was quiet. "She is standing in this house because you forged her name." Frank flinched. "You stay out of this. You came into my home. This is between me and my daughter." Roman looked at Elena. She understood the question in his silence. "Do you want me to remove him?" Elena shook her head. She stepped closer to Frank. "I am not giving you money. You cannot mean that. I do. You will let strangers hurt me. No one is threatening you. They will if I cannot pay. Then do not borrow. It is already done." Elena closed her eyes. Of course it was. Frank had not come for permission. He had come for rescue. She opened her eyes. "Who do you owe?" Frank looked away. "Not Roman's people." "That was not my question." "It does not matter. It matters to you. Elena." She stepped back. "No." Frank stared at her as if he did not recognize her. "I cannot fix this one for you." "You mean you will not?" "Yes." The word was painful. It was also clean. Frank's expression changed from fear to anger. "You think you are better than me now?" "No, I think I am done drowning beside you." He looked toward Roman. "This is what he did to you." Roman did not move. Elena answered, "No, this is what I should have done years ago." Frank's mouth opened, but nothing came out. He turned and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back. "When this man is finished with you, do not come to me." Elena felt the old instinct rise. Apologize. Soften it. Keep the door open. She did none of those things. Frank left. The door closed behind him. For several seconds, Elena stood motionless. Then her hands began to shake. Roman approached. "I can make sure he does not return." Elena looked at him. "I do not need you to punish him. He threatened you. He tried to control me." Roman's face changed slightly. Elena continued, "I needed to stop letting him." Roman looked toward the closed door. "That is harder." "Yes." He turned back to her. "I could solve the debt. I know. I will not." Elena studied him. "Thank you." Roman seemed almost uncomfortable. She remembered her instructions from the night before. "You say you are welcome, then continue breathing." His mouth moved slightly. "You are welcome." Elena laughed. This time Roman did too. The sound was quiet and brief, but it changed the entire room. Sophie appeared at the top of the stairs. She looked from Elena to Roman. "Why is Grandpa leaving?" Elena's smile disappeared. She climbed the stairs and knelt in front of her daughter. "He made another bad decision. Are you going to fix it?" "No." Sophie frowned. "Will he be okay? I do not know." The truth hurt, but Elena refused to hide inside a lie. Sophie looked past her at Roman. "Can he fix it?" Roman remained at the bottom of the stairs. "Yes," he said. Elena looked at him sharply. Roman continued, "But I will not." Sophie thought about that. "Because Mom said no. Because your grandfather must decide what happens next." Sophie looked at Elena again. "That sounds mean." Sometimes it feels mean, Elena said. Is it? Elena touched her daughter's hair. No. Sophie did not look convinced, but she nodded. That evening, Elena found Roman in the library with a glass of water. No whiskey, no phone. Sophie's solar system hung from the ceiling above him. He looked up as Elena entered. Luca called. How is he? He wants to leave treatment. What did you say? No. Elena sat across from him. How did that feel? Unpleasant. Did he threaten you? He said I was abandoning him. Elena nodded. Frank said the same thing without using the word. Roman looked at the planets turning slowly above them. We are very good at choosing difficult families. We did not choose them. No. Elena followed his gaze. But we choose what we do next. Roman remained quiet. From the hallway, Sophie called for help finding a book. Roman stood first. I know where it is. Elena watched him leave the room. He did not ask whether he should help. He simply went. Later that night, Sophie brought Elena a drawing. 4 figures stood in front of the mansion. One was small, one wore a white coat, one had gray hair and held a tray. The 4th was tall, dressed in black with arms drawn too long for his body. Elena smiled. Who is this? Sophie pointed. That is me. That is you. That is Teresa. Her finger moved to the tallest figure, and Roman. Elena looked at the picture. You drew all of us together. We live together. For now. Sophie's face changed. What does that mean? Elena placed the drawing on the bed. It means this arrangement has an ending. When? In a few months? Sophie sat very still. Does Roman know? Yes. Does he have to leave? Elena's throat tightened. It is his house. Then do we leave? Elena could not answer immediately. Sophie looked toward the open door. When the year is over, does Roman stop being ours? Elena stared at her daughter. He was never ours to keep. Sophie frowned. He keeps my drawings. Elena looked down at the picture. The tall figure stood beside the smallest one. Not between her and danger. Not in front of the house. Beside her. Sophie climbed beneath the blankets. Can he have this one? Elena picked up the drawing. I will ask him. She found Roman in his office. He was standing near the window, speaking quietly on the phone. When he saw the drawing in her hand, he ended the call. Sophie made this. Roman took the paper. His eyes moved across the figures. He stopped at the one meant to be him. She made me too tall. You are too tall. He looked closer. What is Teresa holding a tray? That is accurate. Elena watched him. She asked if you could have it. Roman's expression softened. May I? The question was so careful that it hurt. Elena nodded. Roman placed the drawing on his desk beside the framed picture of the mansion. He stood looking at both. Elena saw what Sophie had seen before either of them was ready to say it. The house no longer held separate lives arranged under one roof. It held routines, arguments, coffee before dawn, a child's telescope pointed toward the sky, a man waiting at a school science fair, a woman walking into danger because his brother was dying, a family formed without permission. Roman looked at Elena. Neither of them mentioned the contract. Neither of them looked away. For 3 quiet weeks, the house allowed them to pretend that silence was enough. Roman continued leaving before sunrise, though he returned for dinner more often. Elena worked fewer overnight shifts after the hospital approved her transfer to the Waterfront Medical Advisory Team. Sophie began leaving books in Roman's office and expecting to find them exactly where she had forgotten them. Teresa stopped setting 3 places at dinner. She set 4. No one discussed it. On Friday evening, Elena arrived home after a difficult shift and found Roman in the kitchen. He stood at the stove with his sleeves rolled to his elbows, staring into a pan as if it had personally offended him. Elena placed her bag on the counter. What are you doing? Roman looked at the pan. Cooking, I can see that. Why, Teresa has the evening off. There are restaurants. Sophie requested pasta. Elena looked toward the dining room. Sophie sat at the table doing homework, though her attention was clearly fixed on the kitchen. She asked you to cook. She said anyone who can negotiate with federal agents should know how to boil water. Elena covered a smile with her hand. Roman pointed a wooden spoon at her. This is not amusing. It is a little amusing. The sauce is separating. You use too much heat. I followed the instructions. Cooking does not respect contracts. Roman lowered the flame. That explains my objection to it. Elena moved beside him and examined the pan. Their shoulders touched. Neither stepped away. She reached across him for a bowl, and Roman's hand settled briefly at her waist to steady her. The contact was natural, almost careless. That frightened her more than the deliberate touches they performed for cameras. Elena poured the sauce into the bowl. Add a little of the pasta water. Roman watched her. How much enough? That is not a measurement. It is when you cook. He frowned. You and Sophie have the same relationship with mathematics. Elena laughed. Roman's expression softened. For one suspended moment they stood beneath the warm kitchen lights with sauce on the counter, Sophie humming in the next room, and rain beginning against the windows. It did not feel like a performance. It did not feel temporary. Roman reached for Elena's face. His thumb touched the faint line of exhaustion beneath her eye. You should have called, he said. Why, I would have sent a car. I can drive, I know. Then why send one? His hand remained against her cheek. So you would not have to. Elena looked into his eyes. There were 100 reasons to move away. She chose none of them. Roman kissed her. There was no audience, no camera, no contract clause waiting to explain it. His mouth met hers slowly, as if he were still giving her time to change her mind. Elena stepped closer. Her hands rested against his chest. Roman deepened the kiss, but he did not pull her against him until her fingers closed around his shirt. The control in him did not disappear. It became something gentler, something offered instead of imposed. When they separated, Elena could feel his breath against her lips. Roman looked at her as if he expected regret. She touched his jaw. That was not because I was cornered. His eyes darkened. No. It was not because of the contract. No. Sophie's voice came from the dining room. The water is boiling over. Roman closed his eyes. Elena laughed against his shoulder. They rescued the pasta. Dinner was too salty, the sauce was uneven, and Sophie declared it the best meal Roman had ever made. It is the only meal I have ever made, he said. That is why it is the best. Roman looked at Elena. She smiled at him across the table. Later, after Sophie went upstairs, Elena found him near the fireplace in the library. He held the contract in his hand. The original copy. Elena stopped in the doorway. Why do you have that Roman look down at the pages? I was going to destroy it. Her heart shifted. The year is not over, I know. Then why he placed the contract on the desk? Because I do not want you to believe you have to stay. Elena entered the room. If you destroy it, my father's debt is still discharged. Yes. My name remains clear, yes. Sophie's trust remains untouched. Yes. Elena looked at the pages. The agreement that had once felt like a locked door now seemed like nothing more than paper. You would let me leave. Roman's jaw tightened. Yes. Do you want me to know? The answer came without hesitation. Elena looked at him. Roman's voice lowered. But wanting you here does not give me the right to keep you. She moved closer. Then do not destroy it. His expression hardened with confusion. Why? Because I do not need you to release me from something I already know I can leave. Roman studied her face. What are you saying? Elena placed her hand over the contract. I am saying the paper is not why I am still here. Something opened in Roman's eyes. He reached for her. His phone rang before he touched her. Roman glanced at the screen. The warmth left his face. Vincent. Elena had heard the name before. Vincent Moretti had worked with Roman for nearly 15 years. He controlled several shipping contracts, 2 construction companies, and most of the political relationships Roman refused to discuss at dinner. Roman answered. What happened? He listened. Then his gaze moved toward the security cameras displayed on a small monitor near the bookshelf. When another pause. Do not touch anything, I am coming. He ended the call. Elena watched him. What is it? Someone entered my private records office. Was anything taken? I do not know. Roman picked up the contract. For the first time, Elena noticed that the folder beside it was open. Roman searched through the documents. His movements became faster. What is missing? She asked. He stopped. The amended pages remained on the desk. The original signed agreement did not. Roman looked at Elena. the contract. The warmth in the room vanished. Security footage showed a man wearing a maintenance uniform entering the records office at 2:14 that afternoon. His face remained hidden beneath a cap. He stayed inside for less than 4 minutes. No alarm sounded. No door was forced. Whoever entered had known the access code. Roman watched the recording twice. Vincent stood behind him with his arms folded. He was in his early 50s, broad through the shoulders, with silver beginning at his temples. He wore a dark suit and a red tie. Elena had met him only once. At the gala, he had kissed her hand and told Roman he had finally chosen something more dangerous than business. She had not liked the way he smiled when he said it. The code was changed last week, Roman said. Vincent nodded. 6 people had access. 5. Vincent looked at him. Roman turned from the screen. I removed Luca. Vincent's expression remained calm. He could still have gotten it. He is in treatment. That has never stopped him from causing trouble. Elena stood near the office door. Roman glanced at her. Vincent followed his gaze. This concerns internal business. It concerns my contract, Elena said. Vincent smiled faintly. Of course, Roman's voice hardened. She stays. Vincent looked back at the screen. The man knew where to go. He knew which cabinet. He knew the camera angle. Find him, Roman said. We are already searching. No police. Vincent's eyes flickered toward Elena. Roman noticed. No police, he repeated. Vincent nodded. Understood. He left the office. Elena waited until the door closed. You do not trust him. Roman looked at the frozen image on the screen. I trust what he wants. What does he want, my position? Then why keep him close? Because a man is easier to watch when he believes he is standing beside you. Elena folded her arms. Is that how you see everyone? No. How do you see me? Roman turned toward her. As the person I should have protected from this. The contract appeared online at 7 the following morning. Elena was in the hospital locker room when her phone began vibrating inside her bag. 1 call, then 5, then more than 20 messages. A nurse named Kelly entered with her own phone in hand. Her face had gone pale. Elena looked at her. What Kelly did not speak. She held out the screen. The headline filled the page. Philadelphia doctor sold herself to crime boss in secret marriage contract. Below it was a photograph of Elena and Roman outside the museum. Roman's hand rested at her back. Elena was smiling. The article included scanned pages from the agreement. The debt, the payments, the duration of the marriage, the terms involving public appearances. Her father's forged guarantee was not included. Neither were the clauses she had added to protect Sophie. The story had been constructed carefully. Elena looked greedy. Roman looked predatory. Their marriage looked like fraud. Kelly lowered the phone. Is it real? Elena heard the question beneath the question. Are you who they say you are? She opened her mouth. The locker room door swung open. Dr. Wallace, the hospital administrator, stood in the doorway. Elena, come with me. His office was on the 5th floor. By the time Elena reached it, 2 members of the legal department were waiting inside. One closed the blinds. The other placed a printed copy of the article on the desk. Dr. Wallace remained standing. Is the document authentic? Elena sat across from him. Parts of it. That is not an answer. The contract is real. The article leaves out the circumstances surrounding it. One of the attorneys leaned forward. What circumstances? Elena looked at the closed blinds. My father owed money to dangerous people. He forged my signature on a financial guarantee. Roman DeLuca purchased the debt and offered the agreement. Dr. Wallace stared at her. You entered a marriage to prevent your father from facing criminal consequences, to prevent my name from being used in a fraud I did not commit, and you accepted payment. Yes, the word felt sharp in her throat. The attorney turned a page. The contract states that you were expected to influence public perception and attend events connected to Mr. DeLuca's development project. Yes. You later accepted a position on the medical advisory committee for that same project. I was invited because of my experience. Were you paid? No. Did your relationship with Mr. DeLuca affect the hospital's partnership discussions? No. Can you prove that Elena looked at him? Can you prove it? Did Dr. Wallace sat down? Elena, this is not only about criminal exposure. This hospital depends on public trust. So do I. The board is asking whether patients were treated differently because of your relationship. They were not. Whether donations influenced your schedule? They did not. Whether you used hospital information to benefit the development project? I did not. The questions kept coming. Each one was reasonable. Each one cut deeper than the last. Elena had spent years building a reputation through sleepless nights, difficult decisions, and work no camera had ever captured. A stranger had reduced it to a signature on a contract. Dr. Wallace folded his hands. You are being placed on administrative leave while we conduct a formal review. Elena stared at him. For how long, I cannot say. I have patients. They will be reassigned. I am scheduled for trauma coverage tonight. It has already been reassigned. Elena stood. Dr. Wallace's expression softened. I am sorry. She looked at him. Everyone says that when there is nothing useful to say. The words belong to Roman. They tasted different in her mouth. Outside the office, the hallway seemed longer than usual. People looked at her, then looked away. A resident she had trained for 3 years lowered his eyes when she passed. Kelly waited near the elevator. Do you need me to drive you home? Elena pressed the button. No, you should not be alone. I am not. The elevator doors opened. Elena stepped inside. She did not know whether the answer was true. Reporters surrounded the hospital entrance. They shouted questions before Elena reached the doors. Did Roman threaten her? Did she marry him for money? Was Sophie part of the arrangement? Had the hospital known security guards created a path toward the waiting car? Roman stood beside it. His expression was cold enough to silence the closest reporters. Elena stopped several feet away. What are you doing here, taking you home? You should not have come. I was not leaving you to walk through this alone. Cameras flashed. A reporter shouted, Dr. Brooks, are you afraid of your husband? Elena looked at Roman. She saw fury in his face, not at her, at himself. She entered the car. Roman followed. The door closed, muting the crowd. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Roman said, I will have the article removed. It is already everywhere. I will identify the source. I was suspended. His face went still. What the hospital placed me on administrative leave. Roman reached for his phone. Elena caught his wrist. No, I can speak to the board. That is exactly what you cannot do. They are reacting to pressure. And if you pressure them in the opposite direction, every accusation becomes true. Roman pulled his hand free. I will not watch them destroy your career, then do not make it worse. His voice sharpened. This happened because of me. Yes. The word filled the car. Roman stared at her. Elena looked out the window. I did not mean it that way. You meant exactly that. I mean, this world followed us into the hospital. My world. Yes. Roman turned toward the glass. The rest of the drive passed in silence. At the mansion gates, more reporters waited. Security moved them back while the car entered. Sophie was not home. Teresa had picked her up from school early and taken her to a secure house outside the city. Elena called immediately. Sophie answered after one ring. Mom, why are there people outside school? Elena closed her eyes. There was a story about me and Roman. Is it bad? It is complicated. Did you do something wrong? Elena looked across the library at Roman. He stood near the fireplace listening. I signed an agreement before we moved into the house. What agreement? It said Roman and I would be married for 1 year. Sophie was quiet. You said you married him. I did. But you did not say it was a job. Elena's throat tightened. I should have told you more. Were you pretending at first? And now Elena looked at Roman again. He did not move. I do not know how to explain it over the phone. Sophie's voice became smaller. Are we going home? Elena pressed one hand against her forehead. We will talk when you are back. That means yes. Sophie. Did Roman know you were going to leave? Elena could not answer quickly enough. Sophie ended the call. Elena lowered the phone. Roman stared into the fire. She hates me, Elena said. No. She thinks I lied. You protected her. I hid the truth. You believed the arrangement would end. So did you. Roman turned toward her. I stopped believing that. The confession came too late to comfort either of them. The front doors opened. A member of Roman's security team entered. There is a man at the gate asking for Dr. Brooks. Roman's face hardened. Who, Daniel Carter? Elena felt the room tilt. Roman looked at her. Your former husband? Yes. Daniel had not visited Sophie in almost 8 months. He sent birthday gifts through assistants. He called when it suited him. He had moved to Washington 2 years earlier after accepting a position with a lobbying firm. He had once told Elena that fatherhood was easier when no one expected him to perform it daily. Now he stood outside Roman DeLuca's gates with an attorney. Roman looked toward the security guard. "Send him away." "No," Elena said. Roman turned. "I will speak to him. He brought a lawyer, I noticed. You do not owe him access to this house. He is Sophie's father. He remembers that when cameras are present." Elena looked at Roman. "This is mine to handle." Roman's jaw tightened. Then he nodded to the guard. "Bring them to the front sitting room. Search both." Daniel entered 10 minutes later. He wore a navy coat and the concerned expression he used when speaking to judges, donors, and people whose opinions mattered to him. His attorney followed with a leather case. Daniel looked around the room. "So it is true." Elena remained standing. "What do you want?" "I want to know where my daughter is." "She is safe. With whom? Someone I trust." Daniel glanced at Roman. "That judgment is now questionable." Roman took one step forward. Elena lifted her hand. He stopped. Daniel saw the movement and smiled faintly. "He listens to you. That is reassuring. Speak carefully," Roman said. Daniel turned back to Elena. "My attorney filed an emergency petition this morning." Elena's stomach tightened. "For what temporary custody?" The room became silent. Daniel's attorney opened the case and removed several papers. Elena did not take them. "You have not attended one school meeting this year." Daniel's face remained calm. "I was working. You missed her birthday. My flight was canceled. You were photographed at dinner that night. The dinner was professional. You did not call her for 4 days. That does not change the present situation." Elena stepped closer. "The present situation is that you saw a headline and decided to use our daughter as leverage. I am trying to protect her." From what Daniel looked at Roman, from armed guards, organized crime, a fraudulent marriage, reporters outside her school. Roman's expression became lethal. Elena moved between them. "Do not." She was speaking to both men. Daniel handed her the papers. "The hearing is Monday. This is not about Sophie. It is entirely about Sophie. No, it is about the fact that you finally found a way to punish me for surviving without you." Daniel's composure cracked. "You married a criminal. You left your child because parenting interfered with your career. I provided support. You sent money. I followed the agreement." Elena laughed bitterly. "So did I." Daniel looked at her. The words had escaped before she could stop them. His attorney glanced down. Roman said nothing. Daniel adjusted his coat. "I will see you Monday." He turned toward the door. Roman's voice stopped him. "If you speak to the press about Sophie, I will know." Daniel looked back. "Is that a threat?" "No," Roman said. "It is a fact." After Daniel left, Elena stood in the center of the room holding the custody petition. Roman approached. "I have attorneys who can handle this. I have my own attorney. Mine are better. That is not the point." "What is the point?" "The point is that every time something happens, you reach for power. It works." "No, Roman. It moves the damage somewhere else." His eyes darkened. "I can protect Sophie. You are the reason she needs protection." The words struck him. Elena saw it. She wished she could take them back. She did not. Roman looked toward the windows where reporters waited beyond the gates. "You believe I wanted this? You believe I leaked the contract? No, then tell me what you want me to do. I want you to understand that this cannot be solved by frightening everyone." His voice rose for the first time. "Fear is the reason no one has entered this house to hurt you, and fear is the reason they want to." Roman went still. Elena held the papers against her chest. "This life follows you everywhere. It was here before you." "Yes, and you signed the contract knowing my name. I knew your reputation. I did not know what it felt like to watch my daughter become evidence in a custody case because I chose you." Roman's face changed. "You chose me." Elena looked at him. He had heard the part of the sentence she had not meant to reveal. Roman stepped closer. "Say it again. This is not the time. You chose me. I chose to stay." Why Elena's anger rose because the answer frightened her. "Do not make me explain love while my career is collapsing and someone is trying to take my child." Roman froze. The word remained between them. Love. Neither had spoken it before. Elena felt tears burn behind her eyes. Roman moved toward her. She stepped back. No. His hand lowered. Elena, I need space. This is your home. No, it is your house. Roman's expression tightened. She continued before she lost the strength. I am taking Sophie back to my apartment. It is not secure. It is where we lived before you. Before people knew your name, they knew my name. They did not care until it was attached to yours. Roman looked as if she had struck him. I can place security nearby. No, I will not leave you unprotected. You promised I could leave if I believed Sophie was unsafe. His jaw clenched. Yes, I believe she is unsafe here. Roman looked at the contract pages scattered across his desk, then at Elena. When tonight? The single word seemed to empty the room. Roman nodded once. I will have the car prepared. I can drive myself, I know. His voice was quiet now. I am still having the car prepared. Sophie returned after dark. She entered the mansion without speaking to Roman. Her face was pale from crying. Elena knelt in front of her. We are going back to the apartment. Sophie looked toward the staircase. For how long I do not know. Is Roman coming? No. Sophie's mouth trembled. Because the year is over. Not yet. Then why Elena reached for her. Sophie moved away. You said families do not leave when things get hard. I said people should not abandon each other. This feels the same. Roman stood at the far end of the hall. Sophie saw him. Did you tell us to go? Roman looked at Elena. She could not speak. Roman walked closer and knelt in front of Sophie. No. Do you want us to know? Then tell Mom. Roman's face tightened. Your mother is protecting you. From you, he did not answer. Sophie began to cry. Roman reached toward her, then stopped before touching her. Elena saw the restraint, the pain, the love he still did not know how to name. Sophie stepped forward and wrapped her arms around his neck. Roman closed his eyes. His hands hovered for a moment before settling gently against her back. I am mad at you, Sophie whispered. I know. You should fix it. I am trying. That is what adults say when they are not fixing anything. Roman looked at Elena over Sophie's shoulder. He did not defend himself. Sophie released him and ran upstairs. Elena followed. They packed only what they needed. Clothes, school books, Sophie's telescope. Elena folded the contract copy and placed it inside her suitcase. At the front door, Teresa embraced Sophie and whispered something in Spanish. Sophie nodded against her shoulder. Roman waited near the car. Rain had begun again. Elena stopped beside him. The security lights carved hard shadows across his face. I will send the hospital records your attorney requested, he said. Thank you. My people found the man from the video. Elena looked at him. Who was he? A maintenance worker named Aaron Pike. He was paid to enter the office. By Vincent. He disappeared before we could question him. That is not an answer. No. Roman looked toward the gates. I am restructuring the waterfront agreement. What does that mean? It means I am removing myself. Elena stared at him. The project needs your companies. It needs clean ownership more. You will lose everything you invested. Yes, Roman. The clinic will remain. The housing will remain. The board will receive full control. Why? He looked at her. Because the hospital needs proof that you did not influence me for profit. Elena's throat tightened. You do not have to destroy your business. I am not. What do you call this choosing what matters? She looked at the man who had once offered marriage as a transaction. Now he was surrendering power without asking for anything in return. Roman touched her cheek. The gesture was brief, almost a goodbye. The contract ends tomorrow at midnight, he said. Elena had known the date. Hearing it aloud still hurt. Roman lowered his hand. You will receive the final payment whether you return or not. I do not want it. It belongs to you. No, it belonged to the woman who agreed to pretend. His eyes held hers. And who are you now? Elena wanted to answer. A car engine started behind them. Sophie waited inside. Reporters stood beyond the iron gates. Daniel's custody petition rested in Elena's bag. Her hospital badge had been deactivated. The truth was too large to fit into one sentence. I do not know, she said. Roman nodded. Elena entered the car. As it pulled away, she looked back through the rain. Roman remained beneath the entrance lights. He did not move until the gates closed between them. The apartment felt smaller than Elena remembered. The pipes knocked at night. The refrigerator hummed too loudly. Traffic moved beneath the bedroom windows until dawn. Sophie slept in Elena's bed and kept Roman's framed drawing on the table beside her. Elena did not sleep. At 8 the next morning, Rachel Kim arrived with court documents, coffee, and a list of questions Daniel's attorney might ask. Did you knowingly expose Sophie to criminal activity? No, were armed men present in the home? Yes. Did Roman DeLuca use surveillance on the property? Yes. Did you receive financial compensation for the marriage? Elena looked down at the coffee. Yes. Rachel closed the file. You need to understand how this will sound. I do. Daniel will argue that you placed financial security above Sophie's safety. He has no right. Rights and appearances are different things. Elena looked toward the bedroom where Sophie was getting dressed. Can he win? Rachel hesitated. He can create enough doubt for the judge to order temporary supervision. Elena's hands tightened around the cup. The phone rang. Dr. Wallace. Elena answered. The hospital review board met this morning, he said. She stood. And the leaked contract alone does not establish professional misconduct. We found no evidence that you altered patient care, misused hospital information, or accepted improper compensation. Elena closed her eyes. But the public pressure remains significant. Am I still suspended for now? Her relief disappeared. Dr. Wallace continued. Roman DeLuca transferred his interest in the waterfront project to an independent public trust. He also submitted financial records showing that you never received project funds. Elena looked toward the rain-streaked window. He did that yesterday. Yes, did it help it may. May, I am trying to be honest. So am I. After the call, Elena stood in silence. Rachel watched her. He gave up control of the project. Yes, for you. Elena looked at the clock. 11:20 in the morning. The contract would end in less than 13 hours. Her phone vibrated again. This time the number was unknown. She answered. No one spoke. Then she heard breathing. A man's voice came through the line. Dr. Brooks. Elena's body went cold. Who is this? You were not supposed to leave the house. The call ended. Rachel stood. What happened? Elena looked at the dark phone screen. Before she could answer, an explosion sounded somewhere beyond the city. The windows trembled. Car alarms began screaming in the street below. Elena moved to the glass. A column of black smoke rose above the distant rooftops. Her phone rang again. Teresa's name appeared. Elena answered. Gunfire cracked through the speaker. Then Teresa shouted, "Do not come back." The line went dead. Elena stood with the phone pressed to her ear while black smoke climbed above the city. Rachel was already calling emergency services. What happened, Elena? The voice came from the bedroom. Sophie stood in the doorway, pale and barefoot. Elena crossed the room and held her. Get your shoes. Stay with Rachel. Where are you going? Elena looked through the window toward the smoke. Home. Rachel lowered her phone. Absolutely not. Teresa is there, Roman is there, and armed men are shooting at them. Elena grabbed her medical bag. Sophie stays with you. Her daughter caught her sleeve. Do not leave me. Elena knelt. I am coming back. You cannot promise that. The words sounded too old for a child. Elena held Sophie's face between her hands. No, I cannot. But Roman once told me that wanting someone to stay does not give you the right to keep them. Sophie's eyes filled. Elena kissed her forehead. This is my choice. The roads near the estate were blocked, so Elena abandoned the car half a mile from the gates. Smoke rolled across the trees. Gunfire broke through the rain in sharp bursts. A body lay near the stone wall. Elena kept moving. The gate had been forced open. One of Roman's guards recognized her and pulled her behind a vehicle. Vincent's men entered through the east service passage. The tunnel. Yes. Where is Roman inside? Elena ran before he could stop her. The entrance hall was shattered. Glass covered the marble. Smoke drifted beneath the chandelier. Teresa crouched behind the staircase with blood on her sleeve. Elena reached her. Where are you hurt? Not mine. Teresa pointed toward the library. Roman went after Vincent. Another shot shook the house. Elena found Roman near the office doors. Blood spread across his white shirt. He leaned against the wall with a gun in one hand. Her suitcase stood near the front entrance where a driver had placed it earlier. The contract ended at midnight. Freedom waited less than 30 feet away. Roman saw her, and his face changed. "What are you doing here, saving your life? You need to leave." "I already tried that." "Elena." Vincent's voice came from the office. "He is right. You should have stayed gone." Vincent stepped into view with a pistol aimed at Roman. Roman raised his weapon, but his injured arm trembled. Vincent smiled. "You gave away the waterfront. You weakened every alliance we built. For a doctor. For my family," Roman said. Vincent looked at Elena. "He bought you, and somehow you made him believe that was love." Elena moved closer to Roman. "No, he released me." Vincent's smile faded. Roman whispered the east door. Elena looked at him. "Go." She let the medical bag fall. Then she kicked it toward Vincent. His eyes dropped for 1 second. Roman fired. Vincent fired back. The sound tore through the hall. Vincent fell beside the office door. Roman collapsed against Elena. She lowered him to the floor and pressed both hands against the wound beneath his ribs. "Stay with me. You should have left. Be quiet. The contract is over. Then stop giving me orders." His mouth moved faintly. Elena pressed harder as blood warmed her hands. Roman looked toward the suitcase. "You were free. I was always free." His eyes found hers. "And I came back." Sirens rose beyond the gates. Roman lost consciousness before the paramedics reached him. He survived 6 hours of surgery. Elena waited outside the operating room with Sophie asleep against her shoulder and Teresa praying beside them. Luca arrived before dawn. He looked thinner, sober, and terrified. Frank came an hour later. For once he asked for nothing. When Roman woke, Elena was sitting beside his bed. His voice was weak. "Did Vincent survive number Sophie safe?" "You." Elena took his hand. "Still here." Roman closed his eyes. "Why?" "Because the year ended." He looked at her, and I wanted my first decision after it, to be honest. Weeks later, the hospital restored Elena's position after finding no professional misconduct. Daniel withdrew his custody petition when financial records and witness statements exposed his attempt to use the scandal for leverage. Frank entered treatment and sold the house to repay what he could. Luca remained in recovery and began working at the public clinic without a title or special treatment. Roman recovered slowly. On the first clear evening of spring, he took Elena to the museum steps where they had once pretended to be in love. Sophie and Teresa waited at a distance. Roman held no contract, only a small velvet box. He lowered himself carefully onto one knee. "Elena Brooks, I have nothing to offer you that you cannot leave." She looked at the man who had once tried to control every condition around him. Roman opened the box. "But if you choose me again, I will spend my life earning the choice." Elena smiled through tears. Yes, they married 3 months later in the mansion garden. No reporters attended, no investors watched. Frank sat in the second row. Luca stood beside Roman. Teresa cried openly. Sophie carried the rings and corrected the priest when he mispronounced her middle name. That night, Elena found the original contract burning in the library fireplace. Roman stood beside her. She slipped her hand into his. The paper curled into ash. This time, nothing held them there. They stayed anyway.